Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another episode of From Disease to Health. I'm Dr. Chris Bessent. I've been a veterinarian for over 30 years, and I've treated tens of thousands of veterinary patients. I am a veterinarian as well as have certifications in veterinary chiropractic, veterinary acupuncture, Chinese herbs, as well as I'm a diplomat of Oriental medicine for humans. So today we have a really special guest on this podcast where we have Lynn and Paul Gallant, and they are the founders of Paul's Custom Pet Food. And they really have this really great story or interesting story about Hunter, their dog, who had cancer. And that's really what got them into feeding whole, real food for Hunter, and are going to share with us how well he did. So thank you guys very much for coming today, and please fire questions because we'd love to talk about whole food for pets. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Doctor. Appreciate it.
Tell us your story. Tell us where this all started with you guys.
Sure. So to go all the way back in 2008, 2009, some friends of ours gifted us a golden retriever, a 1.5-year-old golden retriever. They, some friends that they had couldn't handle the dog, and they had already had 2 dogs. So they said, "Hey, do you want a dog?" And we said, "Sure." So we got it. We got him.
Where this took you?
Yeah, right, exactly.
How would we know? Yeah. But we got him. He was a great dog. His name was Hunter. And then in February of 2010, we found out through our groomer. We had a really good groomer who just she loved Hunter, and she said to us one day after a grooming, she said, "Hunter's got a big lump on the bottom of his jaw," and she goes, "You need to have that looked at." And it was like, "Oh, okay." And so we went to our vet, and a traditional veterinarian that we'd used for years, and he was great. We went to him, and they biopsied it, and it was fibrosarcoma. It came back. It was bad, and he sent us to Angel Animal Hospital in Boston. We were living in New Hampshire at the time. And so we went into Angel Animal Hospital, and we went in and we were with the surgeon and her 3 interns. And it really felt like we were at Mass General, as she went over the whole procedure that Hunter would have to go through with the surgery on his jaw, how they cut the trough open and then scrape it all down. It was just terrible.
And at this point, he's only 3 years of age.
Right.
Yeah, so he's a baby.
3 years old, in really good health, so we thought. And so we talked to them for a while, and they said, "Well, if you don't do surgery now, he's got 6 months to live." And this was February or March of 2010. And so we said, well, after we said we do this surgery, we cut his trough open, we scrape it all down, we hopefully get everything out. And I said, "What happens when the cancer comes back?"
Right.
And the surgeon looked at us and said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, cancer comes back. It comes back in family members, it comes back in pets, it always comes back." And she goes, "Well, then we can start into chemotherapy or radiation and all these treatments." And so we said, "Well, let us think about it." And we drove home back to New Hampshire in tears with our dog, and just thought, for a 3-year-old golden retriever who is active as he is, how can we explain to him that, oh, by the way, you're going to have to go through this traumatic thing that you don't know why, and it'll be really bad for you. And so we thought about it, and through a friend of ours, we went back to a vet that we had seen years ago, and she practiced a traditional Chinese veterinary medicine. And so we went to see Hannah, Dr. Hannah Wells. And we went and saw Hannah with Hunter, and she said to us, "Will you cook for him?" And I said, well, of course, we'll do whatever we have to do. So that's how it started. That was, like I said, it was March of 2010. Hannah gave us a recipe, and it was all, and as I understood it, was all cooling foods from the Chinese chart of food.
Yep.
As Hannah explained it to us, Hunter's chi, his energy was really high. He was a really high energy dog. Cancer is really hot. He ran really hot. So the theory was to attack all that heat with cool. And that's what we did, along with, and Lynn has the list of Chinese medicines and herbs that we also supplemented into his food. So we started that. She gave me the recipe and I said, well, how do I cook this? She goes, you'll have to figure that out. Put it in the crock pot and figure it out. And I said,
nice.
Okay. And so I went home and realized that, well, I got to chop all this up. And eventually I got to a point, within a couple of weeks, I got to a point where I figured if I make 30 days at a time, I'll just take it out of my freezer instead of, so often now we hear people say, well, I've tried to cook for my dog, but I just can't cook every night. And I think, why don't you take one day a month and prepare 30, that's what I get into with Hunter, is preparing. And the connection between me and my pet became a whole different world when I started cooking for him.
Yeah.
Because we'd spend one day a month, we'd spend on a Saturday, we'd get in the truck and we'd drive around and collect up his food from the different farmers in New Hampshire that we'd buy from. We'd come home and I'd spend the afternoon making food and he'd sit on the floor and watch me. And yeah. And so eventually one day I looked at him and I said, you just wanted me to make your food is what you wanted, right? I mean, this is all a ruse and you just wanted me to make your food. But anyway, so through his food, through the medications, and then we just stayed with it. We stayed with it. And time went by, 4 months went by, and we were going to Dr. Wells, Dr. Hanner. When we started out, we were going once every 2 weeks. She would do a checkup, and I think it was Justice Method we did, but we were, for the first year, I would say we were there, at least, at the beginning twice a month or once a week, and then twice a month, and then once a month. We were there a lot, and we just kept working it. And through his diet, exercise was another one. That was a key, with exercise, because that burns off the heat as well. And then love, I mean, just. And
hey, Lynn, your microphone, you're cutting in and out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know.
Well,
Maybe it's the internet connection, but
No, it's usually pretty good. So
is it better now? We okay?
I moved a little
it sounds
closer.
good. Yeah, maybe
better?
that's
Okay.
So after, he was given 6 months to live, and then we hit that 6 month spot, and he was still alive.
and feeling good, right? Like feeling
he was great.
like himself.
He was great. He lost the weight because every day I would leave work and I'd drive a couple miles to this huge field and I would run him for an hour or two a day, every day. Yeah. Wow. And I mean, it was great for me. I lost 60 pounds through this whole thing. Quite honestly, I gave up some really bad habits.
So it's good for the whole family.
To be totally honest, I was drinking and smoking before we attacked, and I was spending $20 a day on cigarettes and beer. And I said to Lynn, if I can spend $20 a day to kill myself, I can spend $20 a day to save my dog. Yeah. And that's what I did. And
that's very cool.
It was, so 13 years later, I'm not smoking and drinking, and we're doing this, but
Hunter lived till 13. Correct?
Yeah, Hunter
just shy of
cancer was out of his system after about 1.5 years, 2 years. He was cancer free. Wow. And then we just kept doing it, and he lived until 13. We got 10 more. For a dog that was supposed to die in 6 months, we got 10 more years out of him, and we attribute it to his diet, his exercise, and the love we put into it.
And the herbal medicine.
Yeah,
I mean, he clearly all the medicine was herbal. It was plant-based medicine, Chinese medicine.
But it was also, as you said, your love, your attention,
Yeah.
as well as the super good, clean, healthy food.
Right.
And although we say it, you proved it, so there's research studies out there that say that that's true. There's lots of people like myself, who's a holistic veterinarian, that I've used those exact herbs and food therapy recommendations throughout my patients' lives and have seen miraculous differences.
Yeah.
And I think that the more we come together and share your story, it really makes a difference. I would say, as a veterinarian, there were times in the beginning, as I was learning this, I was like, well, maybe that was just a fluke, and that dog was going to get better anyhow. And then the next one got better, and then the next one got better. And slowly but surely, I became more confident that it wasn't just a fluke, that this really made a difference. Remember years ago when people said, don't ever feed your dog table scraps. Don't feed them real food. Like, how did we, as intelligent human beings, get convinced of that? Isn't it crazy, like in 2022, thinking that we actually believe that?
And
It was
people
all,
still do.
yeah, it was just totally propaganda, completely against common sense, but yet we all kind of bought into it because, and I think it plays on that we love our dogs so much that we will do
Yeah.
anything for them.
Yeah.
And so
and I think
telling me don't feed real food, I'm like, okay, we won't do that. But I think that you and I are here, waving the flag that that's craziness, that we need to be feeding dogs real, wholesome, healthy food. And I feel if we're going to domesticate animals, then it's our responsibility to
Sure.
feed them as well as possible and be knowledgeable about what we do. And Hunter's story is such a great story. And I can tell you many stories like that of my veterinary patients where they came to me as young dogs, and 16 years later, the owner's like, do you think we could stop the herbal medicine? and I think, well, probably in your head, that didn't sound so bad. But when you said it out loud, it sounded a little worse. But yeah, and I think the other significant feature to your story is that he lived a healthy, vibrant life the entire time. So you were at that crossroads, and you could have made that decision of, we're going to go down traditional medicine and we're going to do this aggressive surgery. We're going to go to chemotherapy, all really kind of aggressive, negative things that are going to be hard on him. Or we're going to do the opposite. We're going to nourish his body and give his body everything he needs to be able to heal himself. And you were diligent and did it. And Chinese medicine is really cool about that, because tumors are either high heat, so high heat that is causing this kind of out of control, or accumulation of phlegm. So his was a young, vibrant, healthy, high heat. So we talk all the time about food energetics and about using not only whole food, but then another tool in your toolbox is to be able to decide that I'm going to do cooling foods because this dog is too hot, and I'm going to do warming foods because this kitty's too cold. So there's so many things that we can do that is amazing to balance. So now that Hunter has done well and he's lived a long, vibrant, healthy life, tell us about your next ventures, because I'm just fascinated to hear your stories.
So we should make clear, he has passed away, right?
Yes.
That's in 2019 he did. And he passed away in our arms at home, because for really some of the same reasons. We probably could have rushed him in the middle of the night to the hospital, but it was clear he exhibited all signs that he was passing, and we decided that we weren't going to put him through that. We weren't going to subject him to strangers and bright lights and a car ride in pain. And so we sat with him on the, I mean, it was sort of a fitting ending to his story and to the way we treated his cancer and the way we treated his life, which was really holistically and considering him, not us.
Yeah.
And he did. So he did die in June of 2019. But I know your question is in there, how did we get to move on to where we are now?
Yeah. How did Paul's Custom Foods and not only just, I mean, there's so many aspects of it, not only just the retail section that you just opened, correct? As well as preparing food for dogs all over the country or all over the East Coast?
No, all over the country. We ship to the West Coast. We ship in everywhere in between. And when we were working with Dr. Wells throughout this, I had asked her one time, we were a couple of months into it, and I said to Dr. Wells, does anybody ever actually continue with making their dogs food? And this is 2010. And she goes, not really. Most people do it, but their lives get in the way, that just, and so one day she said to us, you should start a business doing this. And I laughed. And, I had worked at a masonry yard and had a career going. Lynn was in the plant world and the gardening world. She had a career. It's like, we had no interest in that. And then, as fate has it, we wind up down in Connecticut from New Hampshire. And I'm sitting around one day going, I'm going to go to work for a masonry yard. And we thought, hey, let's start that little business that we talked about, that Hannah suggested. And when we said that, we had talked about it before, and we said, let's, we had Hunter at the time, and we said, well, let's focus on what we've done for Hunter in the whole food world and see if we can do something there, custom wise. And then we thought, well, where do we want to go? Where do we go with our food? And we thought about it, and we thought we should be at farmers markets, because people shop for healthful foods at the farmers markets for their families, and we wanted to complete that circle. And the educational part of it too, to be out there, because for Lynn and I, who, we're educated people, we knew, but we believed what the pet food industry told us. And so if for nothing else, if we failed completely, our goal was to get out there and tell people, read the bag, read the can, read what you're putting into your animal, and make a decision from there. Don't just trust that you look at a bag and food is falling from the sky and you think that's going to be good, and so that's why that was our goal to get into this, is more education than food,
And I'd actually like to add to that a little bit. We thought originally that we would be a custom food maker, and we would work exclusively with veterinarians, right? Because we're not veterinarians. We understand that what we could offer is a service, because we were finding that a lot of veterinarians, holistic veterinarians that did prescribe food, found their clients, as Paul said, weren't able to follow through for one reason or the other. So we reached out to veterinarians right from the start, right from the get-go, and we said, we're not, this is not our specialty, but we have a service, and we can offer you and your clients this service. Problem is, it's not a great business model, because we were waiting for customers to kind of come our way. We didn't have a product. So that's when we worked with veterinarians to create 6 varieties of pet food. Originally, they were toppers, so we knew adding some fresh food to other commercial food was better than none. But eventually, we created complete and balanced food with the help of pet food formulators and diplomats of veterinary nutrition. But to Paul's point, where do we start? It's really clearly, people who understood the importance of fresh food to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very cool. We have a couple of questions, and I'm just going to kind of, as we're talking, kind of throw some
Sure.
questions in here.
Sure.
And we have one from Eva. Is there a good source for recipes for me to try with my dog?
I think that's a question for you, doctor. I mean, the internet, as you know, is full of recipes. The problem with those are the balancing, whether they're fully balanced nutritionally.
Yep.
I don't know if you think there are sources out there for people to make their own food that are reputable. I'd leave that up to you.
If I may,
Yes.
that question from that person, we get similar questions when we're at the farmer's market, we're in front of people. And our response is, please talk to your veterinarian first, and if you need to go from there, we have a list of veterinarians that, are holistic. They can design, or they can take care of you, but, nutritionally wise, but that question to us is a please talk to your veterinarian, because we're not veterinarians. We don't,
Yep.
We're not. And that's,
So you guys don't have a cookbook in the future.
No.
We may, but it will certainly give credit to the veterinary nutritionists and holistic veterinarians who create the recipes, for sure.
Yeah.
I would love that I would love that just for that person's question. That here's some recipes we work with.
I think there's so many different schools of thought on fresh food. And so is it the BARF diet that is 90-10-10? Is it 80-20-10? There's such a variety of different recipes and different schools of thought out there. And I think it's important, Eva, to be able to know your dog, which of course you do, and based on their stage of life, pick the most appropriate diet for them. And so sometimes the BARF diet is very appropriate, and sometimes it's not, depending on what's going on with your dog. So generally sticking to some kind of big guidelines that, it's a higher percentage, the food pyramid for dogs is different than it is for humans. So a high percentage of meats, organs and skeletal meats, smaller amounts of really rich superfoods, so kale and spinach, and then great superfoods like berries, but smaller amounts. And then does your dog need some carbohydrates and some grains? Some dogs do. So high drive dogs, they don't maintain their body weight without getting some carbohydrates. So then you might add some carbohydrates to it as well. But I would say that a cookbook from you guys would be amazingly cool, because even though it seems like such amazing common sense to feed wholesome, healthy food, it's also such a paradigm shift that it's a bit scary. And you've got the fear mongers out there that are like, it's not complete and balanced, like you can't do that. Well, in my opinion, the fear mongers are out there saying it's not complete and balanced because they want you to feed the kibble. And quite honestly, I say wholesome, healthy food has the vitamins, the minerals, the antioxidants, has all the components of healthy food that are naturally in it. And so we're not, when you and I are talking about whole food, we're talking about a real apple, real blueberries. We're not talking about apple pumice or blueberry flavoring. And so because you're talking about whole food, that whole food has the natural vitamins, minerals, and everything that is needed to nourish that dog. So this, and in my opinion, this propaganda of it's not complete and balanced is really more propaganda than it is about feeding whole healthy food. Like there's no question that if you're just feeding beef and nothing else, that's not complete and balanced at all. So I'm not suggesting that, but I am suggesting that if you're feeding a higher meat content and then smaller amounts of wholesome fruits and vegetables, possibly some carbohydrates, I think you're pretty much in the right category. And that comes from me doing hundreds of thousands of dollars of testing on different combinations of foods to be able to get it as complete and balanced by using only whole food alone. And that really is not quite as hard as they make it seem.
Right.
Now that's for a healthy dog. For an unhealthy dog and a sick dog, now that's a whole different ballgame. Now that, and I know that you guys work with nutritionists and do custom formulas for veterinary patients that have an illness, and that veterinarian is then saying, here's the recipe that you would use that would fit those micronutrient parameters that are really necessary for dogs with illnesses. So I drone on.
Like ours, yes.
Yeah, that's becoming a bigger part of our business. The custom recipes from people like you that for the dog that has a need, that has an illness that needs to be addressed.
And to me, that's so exciting because that's when they need it most.
Yeah.
You know, what I found as a veterinarian is that, as a holistic veterinarian for 30 some years, is that people will feed their dogs well when they're healthy. And so Eva, I'm sure, is feeding a fabulous diet, and they're all in on it, and their dogs are doing fabulous. And as soon as they have some disease of some sort, people are scared. And so you go to your veterinarian, and your veterinarian says, you need to walk out with this bag of therapeutic, heavily processed, dry kibble. And because you're afraid and you want to do anything possible for your dog, you buy it and you're walking home with it. And you're thinking, how did that happen? I know this is wrong. When I look at the ingredient deck of those therapeutic diets, I know I would never feed my dog that when they are healthy. So why on earth would I do that when they're sick? So when they need nutrition the most, so when Hunter needed it the most, you stepped up and made that happen. And so it's super exciting that you guys do these therapeutic diets in whole food, because I know you guys are very humble and wonderful and quiet, but you should be screaming to the world that you guys are doing this, because you're helping all the other hunters out there and all the other pet parents out there that really need your service. So kudos to you.
You know, just when you mentioned about, feeding your pet and it's healthy, then it gets sick and you go to the doctor and they hand you that bag of crap, bag of bad food. And
we'll just edit that out.
Thank you. But we follow our customers, right? And occasionally we'll say we've missed this customer. They haven't been here for a while, so we'll contact them, and we'll say, just haven't seen you in a while. Well, so and so got ill. We went to the vet and they gave us the brand X for the. And I'll say to them, okay, I understand. If you want something that'll do the same in a whole food from a holistic veterinarian, we have that service for you.
Yeah.
And sometimes they bite, and sometimes it's the fear factor that you just said. Well, my veterinarian told me I need to have them on this. It's like, okay, when his coat dulls down, and when when they get less energy, and you're attacking that illness, but you're missing the whole rest of the health of the dog because you've taken away the healthful food. Come back to us and we can set you up on a diet that will help.
The other thing we do is it's hard because you certainly don't want to. I mean, we're not in a position to judge the veterinarian's decision.
Absolutely.
And nor do we want to make the customer feel bad, because, like you say, they think they're doing the right thing. But so what we do is we ask them if they would consider adding our fresh food as a topper with their veterinarian's permission. So at least they're not abandoning fresh food altogether. They come with the bag, they swear by the bag, their veterinarian swears by the bag. Some of them know, and some of them come to us and say, I hate the ingredients in this. there's nothing healthy in this. I'd really rather feed your food, but I'm afraid because my veterinarian says my dog or cat needs this.
In defense of veterinarians,
sure.
As a veterinarian myself, it's the tool we have. You have to give credit to the companies that make therapeutic dog food diets, because years and years ago, they were one of the first people to say that diet really matters. That if you change this in a kidney patient, if you lower their phosphorus level, you dramatically increase their lifespan and their quality of life. So veterinarians are using the tools that they have available to them. And the more we promote you and our Medicus veterinary diets,
yes,
the more whole food diets that are out there that people can rely on and say, okay, we can. And I know that enough about your diet to know that if you make it a kidney diet from your veterinary consultants, your veterinary nutritionist who developed this diet for you, it hits all of the same micronutrients that are necessary for that disease state. So when they send you a diet that is for a dog with kidney failure, it does have lower phosphorus. It does have higher potassium. It does have moderate levels of highly digestible protein. So it has all the same things. And I think the more veterinarians know that this tool is available to them, the more that they would recommend it. But at this point, there's how many millions of veterinarians out there, and they don't know that this is out there. And the propaganda of you can't develop a healthy dog food with real food is still in the back of our minds. We've been taught it for so many generations. It's still in the back of our mind that can't be done. Right. And that's kind of part of our podcast, is to say to people that absolutely is not true.
It's frustrating.
Yeah.
Common sense says that we should be able to eat healthy food and live long, vibrant life. Sorry, Lynn, I get so.
Oh, no. I just wanted to say that one of the things we've been doing recently with our, in conjunction with the veterinary nutritionists we work with, is calling these fresh therapeutic diets. Nice. So we're even changing the language a little bit, so that in contrast to the bag of food, the prescription diet, we are with our veterinarians calling them fresh therapeutic diets, and I think it's lending a little bit more of that credibility to fresh food as medicine, as therapy.
Have you got any pushback from veterinarians?
Not the ones we're working with. No, I actually think, and I actually see a little bit of a sea change. I feel like even traditional veterinarians are okay with adding our food, at least as a topper. It seems like there's some movement in the traditional practice to appreciate that fresh food has its benefits. So at least okaying their clients, at least authorizing their clients to use our food as a topper. I'm encouraged by that.
Well, we have a question from Kayla Ann, and her question is, could you touch on what I can do as far as herbs and food for my dog with skin allergies? Have you gotten any thoughts on that? So I can give you mine, and then you can talk about it.
No, I think it should be your question, because again, we want to emphasize that we are not the experts in that, and we've had our own experiences, and we work with people that are using herbs, but it's really, we defer to the veterinarians, the specialists.
Yeah, I would say that from the herb side of it, it's similar to what you had with Hunter, is that most allergies are a hypersensitivity. They're a excessive heat. And so those dogs are hot and inflamed, and they manifest it as itchiness to the skin. And so if you have a dog with allergies and you touch them, they're hot to the touch. And they're oftentimes weepy and have a kind of a phlegmy stink to them because their pot is boiling out of control all the time. So I would add, very similar to what you did with Hunter, is I would use herbs that are very cooling, but then food-wise, I would use herbs that are or food that is very cooling as well. And as you guys well know, cooling foods could be fruits and vegetables, because that makes sense that we would tend to eat fruits and vegetables in the summertime when it's cool, when it's hot out. But it can also be particular proteins. So rabbit and fish and duck are all considered cooling foods. So I would add those as well. I think the other thing is that it needs to be a novel protein source is always a good thing. So if they're allergic to chicken and we're adding chicken in their diet, that's just like adding kerosene to the fire. And what we'd really rather do is do a cooling food that is going to bring that heat and inflammation down. So, and your diets, have you differentiated between cooling, warming, and neutral?
So it may come to us from the veterinarian that way. So the recipe comes to us from a veterinarian or a nutritionist through their client, who says, after diagnosing that particular patient, this dog or cat needs a novel protein. We source those proteins. We make plenty of recipes with novel proteins. They may need exactly what you're saying, a fruit or a vegetable that in conjunction with a novel protein or a cooling protein works to holistically, and we will make that. So yes, we've had plenty of experience making foods that are with cooling proteins and with novel proteins, but again, it comes from a nutritionist or a specialist in TCVM or other.
But our six standard recipes that we sell right out of the freezer
For healthy.
That are complete and balanced, we don't say that these are a cooling food or these are a warmer food. I mean, if people, if somebody comes in and says my dog runs really hot, then obviously they know something about what they're talking about, and all right, well, here's Hunter's beef and greens, and there's kale, and there's broccoli, and there's parsley in here, and there's mushrooms, and there's kidney beans, and this is more of cooling if you want that end of things,
or neutral.
Yeah, or neutral. So, but none of our standard foods are like that.
So yes, we don't have therapeutic diets per se.
Yeah, those are all your custom formulas.
Those are
correct.
all custom, right?
Correct.
That's really neat. Tell us about your newest venture of having the store and the deli.
Go ahead.
So we've been manufacturing fresh pet food for 8 years in a commercial, fully, a human grade commercial kitchen, but it was in a sort of hidden in a lower level of a building, so with no, not zoned at all for commercial or for retail. And so we had an opportunity, actually, in some ways, unfortunately, because it was a cafe, a beloved cafe in our town that did not make it through COVID, closed, but a beautiful building with a kitchen, human grade kitchen, of course, a cafe for humans, double the size of what we've been in, with a dining room that we could transform into a packaging and shipping area, and then a little space for takeout. So it's a dream come true, really. We emerged from the darkness of cooking alone in a basement, in a commercial kitchen, but in a basement, to this beautiful light cafe. And it's we just opened. We've been cooking in there since August.
Production in there in August.
Right. We gave our crew a couple of months to acclimate to a new system, a new area, and then we just opened for retail October 1st.
Well, what that does for us, the retail end of our store, once again, it provides us a platform for education, and so a lot of people are interested. It's like, what are you doing here? It's like, well, we make food for pets, and they can't believe it. And they come in and they start talking. And once you can talk to, what we found is once you can talk to people, well, okay, I'll try that. And they go away and they've tried something. And once you get somebody to try something, once most people love their pets enough that when they realize it's like, wow, my dog loves that. And they come back and they say, wow, my dog loves that. And I want to say to them, of course they do. It's all fresh food.
It's real
but
meat.
you can't say that. And you say, that's great. We've got more. And so that retail space offers us, again, it's that educational part of things to at least let people know that, like you touched on earlier, doctor, that, we've been conditioned to feel that table scraps or real whole food is bad for our pets. And it's not, you need to understand what it is and how it can be integrated into your pet's life, and get the bad stuff out.
It's amazing too. We hear the exact same, and I'm sure you do. We hear the exact same thing from every single customer, which is after a few days of our food, their coat is shinier, their eyes are clearer, their energy level is higher, their poops are normal.
Yeah.
And they can't believe it.
It is kind of amazing, isn't it? That it could change stuff so quickly. That's what I found when I was first kind of going down this journey. I mean, I didn't choose this journey. It kind of chose me. I was just more interested in having more tools in my box so that every patient that came my way, I could help in a positive way. And I kept getting all these people that were feeding whole food and feeding real food, and their dogs always did so fabulous. So I started to use it on my dogs. This is 30 years ago. And I was amazed that within a week, I thought it would take 6 months to see a difference.
I know.
But within days, you saw a difference.
Right.
If I didn't see it myself, I'd find it hard to believe that. But yeah, you get stories of that all the time. That's very...
So we have a new puppy. Well, he's 2 now. I still think of him as a puppy. And people say that they can see their reflection in his coat.
Wow.
He is so shiny and he's really in great shape. And he's, of course, been fresh fed from birth or as soon as he was weaned. And people do say that he has the shiniest coat they've ever seen. And it's actually true.
Yeah.
That's fabulous. We have a great question from BC Henson. And BC is has a micro independent pet store in Indiana. Great guy. And his question is, I'm curious about their complete vitamin and mineral mix. You might remember I have begged you, Chris, to make something like that. Is it whole food, and what is the sourcing?
Okay, so this is so we do through the diplomats of veterinary nutrition that we worked with to create our balanced food. A decision was made to use a vitamin and mineral called Chef's Canine Complete. It is not whole foods based. It is a synthetic vitamin that is with no ingredients from China. That we've verified that. It comes from My Pet Grocer and was compounded by Rebecca Remillard. So in that way, we had full trust in that vitamin. However, we make our custom food or our made-to-order prescription diets however the veterinarian that comes to us with that diet requests. And if that means with a whole vitamin, without a vitamin, but whole foods entirely through the food itself, we will do that. As a business, we made a decision that to make a large amount of food to sell to the general public, to healthy adult dogs, we needed to go the route of a more synthetic vitamin. If we can move away from that, I know there are others out there, we'll do it. It's something we think about all the time, something we're investigating.
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you, BC, for that question. We have another question from ZV, is there a safe, natural way to appeal these whole food ingredients to be more desirable to the dog? I have one who doesn't like dried fruit in her food, and as a result, she picks them out of her food.
Well, sometimes I suggest to people to try a bone broth for pets, to try warming it up, to try a number of different sort of tactics to see if you can disguise that. It may be, or change the texture. You can, for dehydrated treats, we sell single ingredient dehydrated treats as well. And sometimes all it takes is to rehydrate the treat for the pet to like it. So I often suggest that people just experiment with that item, with that food itself, and see if it makes any difference.
I would think that generally speaking, animals would love your food.
Right.
Like
Generally,
I mean, you don't have very many that say they won't eat it.
No, we have a few people who will come in and like one of our recipes has blueberries in it. And this particular dog does not like, the dog walks away and there's 6 blueberries left in the bowl. and it's like every other piece of food is gone. The blueberries are completely licked clean,
and
but
they
the
don't
dog
even
won't eat the blueberries. Having a golden retriever though, like we have, when people come to us and they say, my dog has food issues, it's like, yeah, okay. We don't understand that, but we're here to help.
I should say that in a case like that, if they've tried everything, right, that's part of the custom work that we do. That we'll make that recipe without blueberries or without whatever it is. Right. We have right now a number of recipes where they're just asking us to remove one ingredient, and that's what makes it custom, and that's what makes it made to order, and we're here for that.
That's really cool. I love that because it's just like us, we don't like everything. And if we were gonna pick our diets, pick our food, we might not have blueberries or might not have artichokes or something else that we really don't like in our diet. Right. And why wouldn't a dog as well?
The other thing is Hunters is our original, sort of close to our original recipe. Is very healthy, no grains, super foods, lots of greens, locally sourced. And I'll tell you, sometimes people will say, well, we want Hunters because that was the original recipe. They know the story. And I'll ask them, I'll say, do you think your dog is going to like, broccoli and kale and, mushrooms? This is a super healthy. I mean, I want them to eat that. But then they'll say, "Oh, maybe not." Maybe do you have? I'll try the other beef one. So
sometimes they don't even know because they haven't been feeding that stuff. They don't even know if their dog would like it or don't like it. They've been feeding such a heavily processed, brown kibble they throw in a bowl that you can't distinguish one ingredient from another ingredient.
Right. That's the reward of having this job and doing what we do is when you get somebody at a farmer's market and they're hemming and hawing, it's like, well, I don't know, my dog doesn't like this, and finally they well, I'll try this one, and they go home with a frozen food and they thaw it out, and you see them next week and they're like, oh my God, my dog ate that right up. What else should I try? It's like, we have 6, take the one you took last week and try this one, Right. And the question always is, are there any food issues with your dog? Allergy issues? Nope. Then try any one of them. Get them all, get your dog into a cycle where he goes through all 6 of them. They're all good. Right. And people are just blown away that their dogs will eat that,
Right.
Yeah, I think that goes to what you were saying earlier too. I think we've just been so programmed over the last 40 years or so, about the whole anti-fresh food. Kibble is the healthiest, and so it is shocking. I mean, literally shocking to people sometimes how much their pets love fresh food.
Dogs who you could put out a bowl of kibble and it would sit there all day, right, and they would nibble on it here and there, to when they're meal fed fresh food, boom, it's gone immediately.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of real food. Plus it smells good, it tastes good, it makes it
Right.
feel good. And that's what I love about what you guys are doing is it's so clean.
Yeah.
Like there's so many things that are in heavily processed food that we don't even address, that we don't even acknowledge that are there. But the innate intelligence of a dog who has such a great sense of smell can determine things that we don't determine. So the cleanliness of your food is, even though you kind of take it for granted, like, of course, it's beautiful farm raised beef, but you can hardly compare the fabulous food that you make to a dry bag of kibble. Even if it had the exact same ingredients, you could not compare.
One thing that when we were going through the whole process with Hunter and Dr. Wells up in New Hampshire, we were a good year and a half, 2 years into it. And at that point, we were going once every other month or so, and Hunter was doing great. And one day, Dr. Hannah Wells and I were talking, and we were talking about food and what it does for you and the benefits of whole food. And she said to me, she goes, well, Paul, think about this. Think about you go into a supermarket once a week and you buy a 50-pound bag of burned up, dried up kibble, and you eat that every day of your life for the rest of your life. She said, you're not going to be healthy. There's no variation to it. It's all the same. She goes, you're just not going to be healthy. And it's the same for our pets.
Right.
And it was like right then, it's like the light came on. It's like, that makes total sense. Why wouldn't we give them the alternative of fresh proteins, fresh vegetables, fresh grains? Why wouldn't we?
It doesn't make any sense to
Right.
think. It's like cereal. So, we live I, speaking for myself, will live vicariously through the health of our new dog because he eats much better than I do. He doesn't have, he doesn't have the cookies and the cake. But honestly, really, it's like a big bag of kibble or cereal every day. Can you imagine?
Right.
Can you imagine a doctor? And this is what I like about Dr. Becker's statement, that hers is the only profession that promotes processed food over fresh food. I mean, can you imagine going to the doctor and your doctor saying, I want you to eat Cheerios every day until our next appointment, and then it's just mind-blowing. Mind-blowing.
I agree. I hope that 20 years from now, somebody's going to listen to our podcast, listen to you and I talk about it and go, what are they talking about? Of course we would eat real food. Who wouldn't? And the fact that we even have to talk about this is kind of nuts, isn't it? I mean, it's crazy that in this day and age, with the amount that we know about nutrition for humans, that we're even trying to make a case for feeding fresh food. It's just like crazy that we even have to talk about it.
Yeah. I know it's sad.
But there has been, just in the 8 years that we've been doing what we've been doing, there's a change. That we've seen that change. And from people walking past our booth at the farmer's market and looking at it and just kind of going, oh, isn't that cute? To people coming up and asking the questions, what do you do? Why is it better for my dog? So just in 8 years, that change has happened. And I hope in 20 years, like you said, doctor, that somebody will come on and go, wow, what are they even talking about that for? I can't believe that anybody would feed their dog kibble or whatever. I hope that's true.
Yeah.
For sure.
Stephanie had a question for you, which I think is super important. How can they pass your information on to their veterinarian?
Oh, great question. So we created a booklet where we met you, doctor, for the American Holistic Veterinary Medical Association conference, mouthful. We created a booklet for veterinarians, and we're happy to send that to anyone's veterinarian.
Okay.
Right. And not just so they know, that information is for everybody. Whether they come to us or not, we don't care. Take the information, bring it to your veterinarian.
Make your own food.
Make your own food. People come to us and it's like, oh, and they're almost apologetic that they make their own food. And we're like, great, we love you. Make more food,
Yeah.
So, for anybody who wants to approach that with their veterinarian, that's more of the traditional veterinarian, let us know. We'll give you all the information we have to take to that veterinarian and say, look, this is what
So
it
that's
is.
the precursor to your cookbook.
Sure. And here's the other thing about veterinarians that we are just discovering. We have a customer whose insurance covers our prescription food.
Yeah.
So if that's a trend, that will make all the difference in the world, because it's not inexpensive. We source as much as we can locally. It's really a high quality ingredient. So we have a couple of people whose insurance companies are covering it because it's a fresh prescription diet.
Wow.
It's come from the veterinarian nutritionist. It's come to us. We make it. They cover the food. They don't cover the shipping, but they cover all the food. So, that's a huge savings for people. More and more people are buying insurance. We have insurance for our dog now. We
should be covering our food.
Well, but it's something to look into for pet owners with their cat or dog. To see, as you're shopping for pet insurance, will my prescription diets be covered? That's a huge doorway into having more people feed fresh and getting that word out too.
I agree.
So in answer to the question, we can send we can send her the information.
Great.
If she wants to leave her email address or physical address, or she can contact us, and whatever works. We'll get that information to her vet.
What's your website?
paulscustompetfood.com.
Okay.
And it is in transition since we have opened a new retail facility. But and
all your contact information is on there, so they can contact you. They can get this brochure. They can forward that information on to their veterinarian and kind of hopefully connect the two of you, and potentially use your veterinary nutritionists that are on staff with you guys to help develop a formula that would be great for their sick pet.
Yeah.
In conjunction with their veterinarian, if they'd like, they'll
exactly. A veterinarian, because even though we think that veterinarians have all the answers, in reality, veterinarians are meant to treat disease. We're not really trained to support health and wellness, and we're really not trained very well in nutrition at all. I mean, I wholly admit it that most of our nutrition training in veterinary school comes from Hills and Science Diet, and it's more about an infomercial about how to use their products than it is about true nutrition. So their veterinarian might not know how to develop it, but you would have the resources or the connections to get them in touch with a veterinarian that could develop this formula for that vet, for the pet parent.
Yeah, and it's a nice collaboration, really, if you think of it that way. Everyone is working together for the health of the pet.
Yep, absolutely. So you guys are doing this amazing work, not only for healthy pets, but also for sick pets. And that's kind of what we do as well. So we have, we do it at a huge scale. So we have two giant facilities, 185,000 square foot and 45,000 square foot, and 40 plus employees. And we make complete and balanced food out of all whole food in the Simple Food Project. And then now we've developed Medicus, which is whole food diets specifically made for pets who are sick, that meet all the same micronutrients and macronutrients. So I just can't thank you guys enough for today. It was very exciting to see boots on the ground, to see people that are really doing it. I think that I got goosebumps on the amount of pet parents that need to come in contact with you guys and to learn more. And I love your approach as well. Your approach is just doing it. I show you by what I do. I'm not screaming to the moon. I'm not fighting and arguing with anybody about it. I'm not trolling on social media. It just makes common sense. And so we just do it. And you guys do it in such a wonderful, kind, confident manner that I think that in itself will put pet parents at ease.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We just try to emulate our dog. They get up, they have fun, they go to sleep. They just do it. You know, we get up, we make food for them,
And
we go
they're
home and we
kind.
play, and they're kind. So, yeah.
And they give back.
And they give back. Yeah.
That's
Well, I
wonderful.
will say, people tell us we spoil our dog, and we say we just give them what they deserve for all they give back to us, and that's the business we're in. So,
And I think and I think so everybody would do that if they had the tools
sure.
that you guys have. So
Well.
I mean, you just made it happen for Hunter, and look at that
Thanks to
result. I
Dr.
mean, that
Wells.
is,
Yeah.
you can't
Thank
argue
you,
with
thank you
that.
for everything you do too, doctor. I mean, that, you know, I mean, it's people like you that in some way got us into it, and it's people like Dr. Wells who got us into it. And you know, from you standing there 30 years ago going, is this ever going to change, to 30 years later going, here's some people I'm interviewing that are doing it. Well, that's huge. And like you said, 20 years from now, hopefully they'll think we're just three people on a computer talking about nothing, you know.
Yeah.
Because it's so common.
We were old hippies.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, that's us. Yeah. But thank you for everything. Thank you for everything you do too, doctor.
So go to paulscustompetfoods.com.
Paul's Custom Pet Food.
paulscustompetfood.com.
Or
you
info
guys
at,
can always say it again.
or it just info at paulscustompetfood.com will come directly to us. We still answer all of the emails ourselves and the phone calls. So
Fabulous.
Thank
Fabulous. So everybody can reach out to Paul and Lynn, and I'm sure they will embrace you and help you with your pet as well. We look forward to the cookbook. That is very exciting.
we don't have enough to do.
We're starting on it today.
One more project.
Pressure.
One more project.
No.
Thank you guys so much for being a part of this. And I'm really, it's an honor to be able to speak with you about this and to hear your amazing stories.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. It was an honor for us.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Take care.